So I'm in full-on lazy mode when it comes to gardening right now, and so there's not very much happening, just a little bit of watering, a little bit of weeding and a lot of harvesting. So right now videos are just sort of focused on letting you see the fruit of the labours of the last couple of months of spring when I was in full-on gardening mode then. So let's take a look around the front and back garden. So the garden's kind of at its summer peak right now and rapidly going to transition to the winter veggies. So let's get this tour done. So we'll start off here. So we've got loads of potatoes. So every nook and cranny in our garden is crammed full of potatoes, and they're all supported on these various different strings just to keep them from looking too unruly. Because that is the thing about potatoes grown in containers, they can rapidly look a real mess. You don't want that in your back garden. There's Mimi, staying with us at the moment. And so I think these are honestly, this is my favourite way to grow tomatoes. Just look at the yield on these, they're just incredible. There's so many in such a small space, and they're just so easy to grow by comparison with the cordon varieties that we've got on the allotment. So yeah, so this is all tomatoes, they're all doing pretty well. And this is my little harding off bench, just full of bits and pieces. A lot's been planted already, but there's just a few golden beetroot here, a few bits of chard and things for the front garden, just a few spare lettuces and stuff. And more potatoes. Now I do get, although these are Sarpamira, so they don't get, I don't know what it's called, late blight. They do get this, which is I think a kind of blight. It doesn't kill the plants, but it does make them look a bit of a mess. And it's always these older, lower leaves that get it. But it doesn't seem to affect the yield or anything, just look a mess, don't they? So we've got some of our really old lettuce beds now. So we've been harvesting these since about the beginning of May. And I've got 3 beds, a little bit too much. I could do with 2 beds really at this time of year, but you kind of need 3 beds in May, so I need to start clearing some of these and getting them replanted. I hate clearing them though, it seems such a waste. And anyway, so in here we've got shallots interplanted with parsnips, and there we've got beetroot interplanted with garlic. The garlic is ready to come out now. I'll actually take that out when I finish this video. It won't be very good though, because it's not a great spot really for garlic. That I did originally plant it just for green garlic, but then we had so much that we never got around to harvesting it, and so I just decided to leave it in. Hopefully we'll get some bulbs that we can use for green garlic next year. We've got some more Asian spinach in here. All the rest of our Asian spinach has now gone to seed, so the only spinach we've got is the New Zealand spinach on the allotment, which is absolutely beautiful at the moment, incredibly prolific, and it's a great kind of insurance policy basically against the true spinaches going to seed. I've got some colettes growing quite well. It's the shadiest spot we've got in the garden, so it's perfect for something that's nice and slow growing, that'll keep on growing until October time. So, you know, just very slow and steady, and hopefully the plants will be up here at the top of these fence pins in a month or so's time, and then ideally they'll get a little bit higher. Grapevine's doing well. Just keep having to prune it to keep it under control. And I've just got some carrots here. I don't have very many carrots in the back garden, most of them are on the allotment, and germination in this bed has been quite patchy, and so I'm guessing that there's some slugs or snails in here, because germination is generally fine with this variety, and it certainly has been with the other beds on the allotment. So I think like a row like that there, I think it's just been stripped off as soon as they come up, by slugs or snails or something, because it's a kind of dark, wet corner there, sort of perfect for snails. They're probably living behind the shed. Right, so more potatoes. So these are Cara and Charlottes, and they're looking pretty good. Won't be long before these are ready. A lot of them have already flowered now, and the flowers have died off. These are the Cara here, so these are just flowering now. Just got some bits of garlic. I'm actually really pleased with that garlic harvest because it came from the tiniest little bed. I'll show you in a minute. Cherry tree is doing well. Raspberries are fantastic now at this time of year. I love these raspberries. We've had these for many years now, and they're such a tasty variety. Unfortunately, I don't know what the variety is because it's so long ago now, I can't remember. And this was planted long before I kept any records. Strawberries, blueberries. I've been waiting very impatiently for these blueberries to ripen, and they are finally ripening. Some gooseberries. Every other pot is a gooseberry pot, and these are very young plants. I just put them in, took cuttings last year, planted them this year, so looking pretty good. The blueberries are finally starting to ripen, but I'm really pleased with the crop this year. I did transplant them into bigger containers, and it seems to have given them a real massive boost by comparison with the little ones they were in before, because they were previously in these galvanised bins. Given my perennial kales a bit of a clean up, they were getting very messy with lots of straggly branches, and you can see one's just broken off there, and so basically they were just all collapsing down there. I like it when they're like this because it gives a lot more light to this area. More potatoes and more potatoes. So this is a new lettuce bed I've just put in. A few slugs and snails, there always is when I clear a bed. This bed was garlic and spring onions, so just from that little bed there, that's where I got all that garlic from. So a really great crop. I've put it in so much, at such a high density by comparison with what I normally do with garlic, and the yield was just as good. And as I said, I also interplanted it with onions. So some more lettuces and onions here. So these three beds here, these are mine late summer, early autumn lettuces, and then we switch over to the allotment and put lettuces in the low tunnels and the polytunnel. Beans are doing quite nicely now. So I plant my beans outside quite late because I've got plenty of beans in the polytunnel, and so we're just awash with beans at the moment. But when the ones are in the polytunnel finish, these should be ready because they're all flowering now. And again, I've put these in at a really high density. My default mode basically is to put things in at twice the density that the books say, because a lot of the densities books use are based on weeding, making it easy to weed things. And I don't really need to weed in this garden because it's all compost. There's very few weeds, just little bits that come from the grass. And yeah, so, and then to see if it works, and if it doesn't work, then I'll move the density down a little bit until it works. But I like to start high and work back down. So peas are just coming to the end, and those pickling onions as well. So these beds will very soon, within the next 2 weeks, be winter kales. So I'm really excited to get those in. I've got some golden beetroot here, and I've got some more peas. So these are alderman, and they're just starting to come into flower. In fact, I've got the first pea there. So hopefully we shall have peas from these just as these are finishing. As a rule, we don't normally pod our peas, we just eat them fresh. These are sugar snaps all down here, and this year the crop has been so huge that we've had to pod quite a few. I think I've done how many? 6 litres so far this year. 2 months' time this will all be transformed. All these beds will be empty of what's in them now, and they'll just be full of spring cabbages and lamb's lettuce and waiting for garlic and overwintered onions and all that sort of thing. So this is what I love about growing annuals, just this constant cycle of renewal, and such big harvests as well. It's such fun. So I'll just take up the drive. We've got some more potatoes, and these are our cherry trees, and these have been great. And lots of people ask me about birds and the cherry trees. Well, in this down here it's not so bad, because the birds have been eating these sour cherries and they don't like them, and they come red early, so it just puts them off eating the sweet cherries, which come a bit later. Got some nice pears coming on this tree, and more potatoes. So this is our ornamental kitchen garden in the front garden. Gets lots of interest from passers-by. So we've got our lovely little shady kale patch here. Not much grows here, so kale is absolutely perfect. So we've got some spring onions interplanted in there, just so we run out of space to put spring onions, but they seem to be doing all right. I think actually at this time of year you want to slow the growth down of spring onions, otherwise you just get bulbing onions. So it's looking quite nice. It's always a little bit weedy, this part of the bed. We intentionally don't kind of over worry about it. We just focus our attention on keeping this part of the garden, where we've got all the edibles, reasonably weed free. So we've got some nice kales here. We did lose 1 plant here, I think, maybe 2 to cabbage root fly, but the rest of them seem to be okay. We did then water with the nematode that kills the cabbage root fly, which we use for carrot fly and onion fly and everything else, all the flies that affect the roots. So got some nice red onions here, coming on pretty well. Not as well as the ones on the allotment that are in full sun, but it's enough. You get really nice medium-sized onions here, which is what we're always after. We've got some shallots here, got a bit pushed over by the chard, which we've taken out now. I've got some more onions down there, plenty of onions. Red cabbages coming on well, and these are kind of covering up a big old water butt that we're using as a planter there. I've got some chard here, and we've just started clearing the Asian spinach that we've been eating in spring and early summer. We've got a few courgette plants there, some golden beetroot, some more chard there, and some colettes making a nice little wall, or covering the wall at the moment. I've got my apple tree from my family orchard, the last surviving tree from that orchard. Debbie's just busy clearing this spinach that's gone to seed now. So we won't be putting spinach back in here, we'll be putting chard, kale probably back in here. So it's looking really nice. I'm really pleased with this. This is the first year that we've had this ornamental kitchen garden here. We did previously just have a very weedy, mossy lawn. So I hope you like that little garden tour. My name's Steve. This is the Seaside Kitchen Garden and Allotment channel, and I'll see you soon.